Ready? I'm ready. I call the big gray dog the Greyhound bus. I've loved riding on the Greyhound bus for several years. I just took a trip last Thursday, started out from Yakima, Washington, and when I ride the bus, there are two things that I look for. One is that I get to my destination, and the other one is that I get a double seat to myself. And on the first half of that trip, it happened. I got to get that seat by myself, and you lay back with a pillow behind your back, and you can see the scenery or cover yourself up with a blanket, and there you go. Leave the driving to somebody else and have a good experience on the way, and meet some really fascinating people. When we got to Salt Lake City, we had an hour-and-a-half layover. So we all went in and sat around and plugged our phones in wherever we could find to plug in and started watching people. Saw some really fascinating people, which is part of the bus trip. For one thing, I saw drugs exchanged right there in the bus station in front of me. Another thing, I saw people sitting around making friends with people that they'd never met before and they'll probably never see again. They became friends and opened up and shared their lifetime stories together. Another thing that I saw that upset me, when we got in line to get on the bus, a large white man confronted a young black man who was probably in early 30s, and he accused the black man of getting his place in line. And the white man used some slurs, some racial slurs, to the black man. And the black man did defend himself, but you could see he just kept it all in. He didn't explode, he just kept all of his thoughts and feelings inside. And the white man just kept on and on after him and finally let him go. We all got on the bus and started on our trip down the road from Salt Lake City and got about an hour and a half away, and the bus caught on fire. The engine in the back was on fire, so we all had to pull off and get out of the bus, and we waited 3 hours by the side of the road in the rain, in the dark, 70 people, till they came with another bus, replacement bus. And then the same thing happened as it did in the bus station. Some people went around the corner and smoked marijuana. Some other people got together and started making friendships. And I stood around with some black people that I found really, really fascinating. And one of them was the guy who had been discriminated against in line at Salt Lake City. And I found out that he was from New York City. And there was another black guy with him, and he talked a lot about his beliefs, his thoughts about positive things in life, and he kept calling those beliefs isms. So I just nicknamed him Ism. And I nicknamed the other guy New York City because he told us that that was where he was from. And he told us that in New York City, people are on their way bustling around and they don't have time to pay attention to what color you are or who you are. You just go on and live your life. And he was surprised about what happened in Salt Lake City about being discriminated against and knew that he had to keep it under wraps. He said, I realized that it could have turned into a violent situation, and I just kept myself closed up so I didn't end up in jail in Salt Lake City. So I watched, for the 3 hours that we were stuck there, I watched people making friends and having an interesting conversation with each other. And I enjoyed my conversations. We got back on the bus, and our next stop was Denver. Same story, we were stuck there. Now we had lost our connecting buses. Probably 50 of us there. We sat down on the floor of the Denver bus station, found a plug, parked our suitcases, and just relaxed. For 9 hours we were stuck in Denver. And I ended up with Ism in New York City right next to me, which was great for me. I loved it. And I heard their stories and the things that they had to share about life that were really great things. New York City was studying in California to make a good career for himself and just traveling back to see his family. And Ism was on his way to Abilene to see his family. And Ism and I shared the names of books that we'd read and the things that we got out of those books and how those things meant so much to us. It was a great 9 hours, actually. Spiritual 9 hours. And then it was time for us to split up and go to our respective buses. And before we did, I walked over to New York City and I said, New York City, I know you experience some prejudice and disrespect, but I have to tell you that I respect you. And it has nothing to do with color, gender, age. It has everything to do with the fact that you are my brother. You're my human brother. We share humankind together. And I want you to know that I know there are many people out there, like the guy in Salt Lake City, who disrespect and hate. But I want to tell you that there's a whole bunch more people, like me, that don't pay any attention to whatever the color is. It's all about being human beings and loving one another. And I want you to go on the rest of your trip and remember that I love you. And he picked up my hand and he kissed it. And he said, I know that that's from the heart, and I really respect what you had to say to me. And I told Ism, same thing, I respect you. And he said, who knew when I sat down here next to some old white lady that we'd end up talking about books and the things that mean so much to us. We said goodbye, each got on our own buses, took off, and I ended up with a double seat to myself. And that's the end of my story.